This is 7 News High School Red Zone Review Preview.
Hi everybody, welcome aboard as we look back on week number 11 and get set for week number 12 in the high school Red Zone. Regular season ended last week. Playoffs now set to begin. In fact, as we speak, Spartanburg High, the lone area team that's in action tonight, playing at Rock Hill. Vikings team trying to get a 6th win on the year and advance in the 5A Upper State, scoreless in the opening quarter against one of their old-time rivals from back in the days of the 2-4A and Region 2-4A and the Big 16. But as for the action last week, as they capped off the regular campaign among the battles in Region 2-5A, Burns and Gaffney going at it, with the Rebels trying to win the outright title in the region for the first time since back in 2014. Trey Segura into the end zone for the early lead midway through the first quarter. Under a minute to play in the opening half, Riley Staten to James Oates comes up with the interception for Burns. 4th turnover of the night for the Indians, and Burns was up 17-0 to break. Early third quarter, Andrew Stevens, Segura out of the backfield, made it 24-0, but Staten later in the third to Shane Davidson. Beautiful catch, a one-handed grab for the TD. It was a 24-7 game mid-fourth quarter. Indians on the move. Jaden McDowell made it a 27-21 game. Under 4 minutes to go, Stevens getting the ball to Armani Weaver. Weaver breaks tackles, takes off, and that clinches the victory as Gaffney moves on to the 33-21 triumph. And they win for, or I should say Burns moves on to the 33-21 triumph. They win for the 20th time in 41 meetings against Gaffney. Reggie Shaw and crew head to the playoffs at 9-1, 4-0 and unbeaten in the region with the outright title for the first time since 2014.
Players locked in and just went out there and took it, man. It was sloppy at times, but we found a way just like we have the last 5 games here. Just couldn't be more proud of a group of guys just to come together, show so much grit.
Well, Riley Staten had thrown 4 interceptions going into that game, but you saw that he had a big one in the second quarter, which really helped Burns' momentum. For the Rebels, they'll head to the postseason on an 8-game winning streak. Their only loss during the year to a 3A Chapman team, a game they led 14-0 early. Meanwhile, the Spartanburg team that's playing right now against Rock Hill honored Doc Davis, naming the field at Viking Stadium after their coach who got him to 5 state titles and is their winningest all time. Well, he was watching as the Vikings had built a 14-0 lead at the break. They're up 21-0 in the third quarter. You saw the Demetric Foster connection from Bryce O'Neill. Then David Sorensen late in the fourth makes it a 21-14 game Spartanburg. But Trenton Lynch helps turn the tide back in the Vikings' direction. Down the sideline he goes. Apparently a clinching touchdown. Under 2 minutes to go, O'Neill is intercepted by Zeke Bell-Boyd for the final nail. And Spartanburg getting a 46 win all-time and a 3rd straight in their rivalry series. Disappointing record for each team this year, but the Vikings' 35-14 win giving them momentum heading into the playoffs.
I'm excited for our kids. It's been a long time since we've had this feeling. Our kids have fought. If you come and watch us practice, you practice like we're undefeated. Just we haven't been executing to the degree that we needed to win some of these games, and tonight we executed a lot better.
And the Vikings again playing right now against Rock Hill. Dorman also got into the playoffs as an at-large team, and they are playing at Burns coming up on Friday night, and more on that game in just a bit on this show. Meanwhile, the championship on the line in Region 3-3A as well as Region 2-5A. There were actually 6 region title games last week. This was one of them in Kamaje Brackett Brandon in the opening drive for Broome on the road against Chapman, who they'd lost 8 in a row to going in. Well, Broome led 7-0. Coleman Gray answers, made it a 7-7 game. Then Matthias Scott busting it. Nice run to set up a touchdown. It was a 28-14 lead at the half for Chapman. In the fourth quarter, Chapman up 35-28. Keanu Na with a nice run. That led to a field goal, gave the Panthers a 10-point lead, 38-28. But Jalen McGill and Broome wasn't going away. He had scored earlier in the second half. That touchdown cut the deficit to 3 with 4 minutes to go. Gray and Chapman get the ball back, and on a 3rd down play, Coleman Gray getting a 1st down, which seals the deal. Chapman closes out the regular campaign 9-1, wins another Region 3-3A crown, and goes through the region unbeaten at 4-0. Harry Cabanis, one happy guy after the big win against a rival and for the championship.
It's always a good thing when we're in the conversation at the end of the year. You know, to win 7 region championships in a row. We haven't lost a region game since 16 here, so there's a lot to uphold. And our guys understand that, but we don't focus on that. We focus on the day-to-day preparation, and that's what allowed us to do this.
3-point win for Chapman. Interestingly, Broome went into the game allowing 137 points. Chapman went in allowing 136. So each team had done a nice job defensively, really close. Now maybe, just maybe, they see each other again in the playoffs, but of course there are many others that'll have a say in the postseason in 3A. Among them, the BHP Bears. They had a championship game on their hands. They went up the line and took on Wren for the Region 2 3A title. And in the third quarter, with BHP up 17-0, Colton Bagwell of Wren to Braden Binnicker. That made it 17-7 Bears as Wren cuts the deficit to 10. Marquez Henderson, though, close to the end zone, a 7-yard touchdown run for a 24-7 advantage. Henderson getting up around 1,700 yards with his effort on the night. And then Bagwell picked off by Jet Jones, a 65-yard pick six for the 31-7 advantage. Henderson added a 60-yard run on his way to a huge night, 283 yards and 3 touchdowns. This one of them on a sprint to the end zone of actually 80 yards as BHP pulled away on the season. Henderson now nearly 1,800 yards and 31 touchdowns, and the Bears cruise to a decisive win. Another region crown is theirs. They now get ready to open up against Emerald in the playoffs. Speaking of the Vikings, they were on the home field trying to get a second win, already with a playoff berth in hand in Region 4 3A against the region champ Clinton. Trey Cook for the Red Devils gave him a 21-7 lead in the second quarter, and Clinton moves on. DJ Clark on the 29-yard touchdown reception as the Red Devils 8-2 region champs heading into postseason play off of that win. The Region 2 4A championship was a battle for a trophy at Greer, the Golden Spike between Riverside and the homestanding Yellow Jackets. Greer had won 34 of the first 42 matchups, and they led 28-7 in the third when Jacob Medlin found Mikkel Skinner, and Riverside turning that into a touchdown to cut the deficit to 28-14. After a Greer interception, Medlin intercepted again, this time by Max Hannon. Set his team up in fine field position, led to a Nick Holmes Greer touchdown, and the Jackets moving on to the victory as Greer triumphing in that game by a final of 42-21. So Will Young's team that started the season at 1-5 heads to the playoffs 5-5 overall. They swept their 4 region games, maybe hoping to pick up some momentum at this point, knocking off another one of those rivals.
We play so many rivalries here at Greer. I mean, we got Burns, we got Blue Ridge, we got Eastside, we got Riverside. I mean, there's a ton of them. So every game we play is that way. You know, our job's come out here and execute. And for the most part, they executed pretty well tonight.
And that they did, so they got potentially a couple of home games in the playoffs. The trophy remains theirs. They're 35-8 all time against Riverside, and they've won 6 in a row in the series. Also in Region 2 4A, Eastside with a win could get as high as a 3rd seed in the playoffs. Had Andre Wilcox's team lost to Wade Hampton, they would be out, and Wade Hampton would be in. Peyton Schrader for the Eagles doing his part to get a victory. Noah Honeycutt off the catch does the rest. Nice yards after the reception into the end zone. Early 8-0 lead. Second quarter, Schrader and Eli Clint get together. And Eastside, nice turnaround season for them, winning by a final count of 28-14. They finished the regular season at 6-4. They get ready to go on the road in the playoffs on Friday night, but with some momentum, and Wade Hampton's season ends at 2-8. The Region 1 2A championship in the Lakelands between rivals 96 and Abbeville at the home of the Panthers, the reigning 2A state champs. And as things tend to be, this one turned into all Abbeville. Third quarter, they were up 14-0. Altavius Patterson, so tough to stop, close to the end zone, 21-0 advantage. Fourth quarter, Joe Lewis Haddon continues a big year, looking over his shoulder as he gets to the end zone, 28-zip. Next possession, DeMarcus Leach adding one from 54 yards out. Panthers of Abbeville get an 8th win on the year. They go 5-0 in Region 1 2A. They continue their run of region wins, now 40 in a row against region competition going back to 2015, and it's 11 straight against 96 with that 42-0 win. Also in Region 1 2A, Liberty and Chesney playing for playoff position. Eagles had won 4 of 5 going in. This turned out to be a tight game. Red Devils were down on the road when J.J. Hernandez scored. It was 27-21 Chesney. Later on, Liberty had a 28-27 lead. And you saw the touchdown there as Adonis Burgess got it, 35-27. Devils, though, tie the game with 30 seconds left. Logan Smith scrambled to the end zone and found a wide open Austin Smith. And then it's Logan Smith getting the 2-point conversion to make it 36-35 with half a minute to go. And Liberty getting another thrilling win. What a fine season for them as Paul Sutherland's team gets a 7th win. Most victories for them since back in the middle of last decade as Liberty went on to the victory. Meanwhile, Blacksburg and Landrum doing battle at the home of the Cardinals. A Landrum team trying to get a 5th win on the year after a good start. They had a rough go of it in the region. And Ty Foster to Colton Link, who had himself a big night. That's a 33-yard touchdown. A dominant performance at home by Landrum. Link later an 11-yard touchdown run off the RPO. Cameron Cobb, though, with a beautiful catch late in the second quarter. Look at that, a one-hander bobble, takes the hit, gets knocked out. Blacksburg season ended 3-7. Landrum making the playoffs in 2A at 5-5 with a dominant win to end the regular campaign 44-7. Region 1-1A championship, longtime rivals in Greenville County going at it. Southside Christian at home against Christ Church. Tucker Hendricks, good year for him as the first-year starter for Quinn Hatfield's team. Jackson Rep, 7-0 game at the half in favor of Christ Church on the road. In the third quarter, Cavs build their lead. Deshaun Reeder into the end zone, 13-zip. Then later on in the third, Hendricks to Rep once again, made it 20-0, and Christ Church, after Southside Christian won 3 in a row, Cavaliers have now won back-to-back games in the series in a shutout. 34-0, it ended the Sabres' 6-game winning streak, and the Cavaliers, with a region championship in hand, head to the postseason on a 6-game run. Now in Region 1-5A, Hannah had already wrapped up the crown and they were idle last week, but this was a big matchup. Man and Hillcrest playing for second place. What a shootout they had. 21-zip Rams at home at the half, but Ethan Anderson and Mikkel McClellan got together, and that tied it at 28 all in the third period. Fourth quarter, 35-28 man. Avery McFadden gonna bust one. Get to the house with about 3:20 to go, tied it at 35. Same score when Hillcrest gets the ball back with about a minute to play, and Wyatt Ward, the diving interception in a 35-all game, gave his team good field position. Anderson then to Camden Cremens, and that's the winner with just 9 seconds remaining. Man pulls it out. Sensational season for them. They're best win total since 2008 as they go to the playoffs at 8-2. Hillcrest likewise at 8-2, but has to travel. Man gets to open up with a home game in 5A against Blythewood. Woodmont and Malden, a Woodmont team trying to get a win, get into the playoffs. Had Malden won, they'd have gotten in. Mavs also trying to avoid a first losing season since 1998. Jordan Sink and Drake Stewart connecting there. Ezekiel Belcher later able to bust one. It set up a Trey Broughton touchdown, and Woodmont, after losing their first 12 meetings against Malden, has now won 2 straight as they took a 34-21 victory. So Ty Sutherland, whose dad coaches at Liberty, well, he got his team to 5 wins, and they are headed off to the 5A Upper State playoffs. Region 4-3A, we showed you the Clinton Emerald action earlier on senior night at Union County. Yellow Jackets needing a win to have a hope to get in the playoffs against a Woodruff team that was trying to get a 4th win on the year. TJ Morris and Aiden Gibson striking early, 68-yard score. And then on their next possession in that opening quarter, Morris and Nick McConnell make it a 14-0 game, and Woodruff moving on to the victory at 4-6 ahead of the playoffs. They finish at 2-2 in the region. Union County's season comes to an end again without a playoff trip as they end up at 2-8. Meanwhile, Palmetto and Powdersville, a couple of teams heading to the playoffs, and with positioning on the line in Region 2-3A. Palmetto's Brooke Jansen hooking up with Wyatt Winter. Great name. Hoping to make his team a winner. 20-yard score. Palmetto had a 7-6 lead in the opening quarter. Jaden Pepper of Powdersville coming back, though, gives the Patriots last year's 3A runner-up a 12-7 lead. Eli Hudgens later to Elijah Huggins on that connection, and Powdersville moving on to the win. They're 5th in 12 meetings against one of their school district rivals, 33-7. So Robert Muster's team at 5-5 heads to the playoffs, and Palmetto goes to postseason play at 3-7. Fountain and Southside playing it out. The Tigers trying to avoid a winless season for the first time since 1981. Well, against a Fountain Inn team that last year was winless in its first year of football. Jack Criswell taking down Sam Holliday right there. But Fountain Inn with a chance to get a third one on the year. Javante Searles tackled by Fountain Inn's Corbin Giles, and then Joshua Blackmeyer taken down by Xavier Gonzalez. When it's done, Fountain Inn gets that third win, so they close their second season with a 28-16 triumph. And a Fountain Inn team that, of course, had no seniors on the roster this year, so everybody the opportunity to come back, and they'll be a year older next year. Berea and Westside played last Thursday. Rams with a Region 1-4A championship in hand, but trying to close region play unbeaten and win 9 out of 10 in the regular season. DeMarco Evans into the end zone, one of the many good running backs in Anderson County this year, in a 7-0 lead against a Bulldogs team that Westside was trying to beat for a 5th time in 6 meetings. They've been improving as Berea. Maze Robinson and Destin Eichelberger got together there. Later on, though, Cutter Woods to Jamar Boston. What a weapon Boston is now that the cast is off his hand and he can play receiver as well as defensive back. Westside moved on to the win. So both the rivals in Anderson going 9-1 in the regular season. Westside with that big triumph, and TL Hanna also 9-1. Back to Region 1-4A play on Friday night, and Easley and Greenville. Red Raiders team trying to get a 7th win, and what's been a tough year for them injury-wise. There's Kyler Zimmerman busting through to the end zone against an Easley team that Greenville was going for a 21st win against all time. And Greg Porter's team, with 10 wins in each of the past 2 seasons, getting a 7th. They still got a chance to get to 10. Javion Sherman, the TD there. They're a team you don't want to face in the 4A Upper State as Greenville cruised on to a 42-14 win. Pickens and Greenwood, an Eagles team, trying to make it 5 in a row in the series against the Blue Flame and get to 500. Heading into the playoffs in the 4A Upper State, Tristan Lewis and Zion Hawkins on that touchdown connection gave him a 7-0 advantage. Lewis later jumped pass to Thomas Chandler, and Greenwood moved on to the victory. Pickens' season ends at 1-9, and on a 7-game skid, the 48-14 triumph for Greenwood, making them a 3rd seed heading in to the playoffs. They will be traveling coming up Friday night in the high school red zone. Western North Carolina 1A, 2A Mountain Foothills Conference, and Chase trying to shore up its playoff positioning. Marcus McKinney and RS Central looking for a 4th win on the year, got into the end zone. However, Zach Frazier and the Trojans, nice little cutback right there on that QB keeper. That scores and ties the game early on at 7 apiece. Frazier again with a nice handoff. Boy, he runs the RPO well. Gets to the end zone. Trojans moving on to the victory, a 6th straight against the Hilltoppers. So Chase at 7-3, now heading into postseason play with some momentum. They ended up 2nd in their conference. That's a look at a good part of the action from last week in the high school red zone. Now we get ready for week number 12. Playoffs getting underway. It should be a really good 5A battle, you would think, between rivals Dorman and Burns, if for nothing else, a high level of energy. And a few weeks ago, they played a tight game, as it turns out, at Nixon Field. That's where they'll kick it off again tomorrow night in the opening round of the 5A Upper State. And Todd Summers has a preview.
Last Friday night in Gaffney, Burns was celebrating its first outright region title since 2014. This Friday night, in the first round of the playoffs, the Rebels face another familiar Region 2 5A rival in Dorman.
Don't believe what everybody's saying right now. Everybody's telling us how great we are and that we've claimed a state championship, and that's far from the truth. It's all 0-0. It doesn't matter what happened last week. It's all about now.
While Burns comes into Friday night's contest 9-1 and Dorman sits 3-7, just 3 weeks ago, the Rebels had to hold off a furious late Cavalier charge to get the narrow victory, 28-26.
First time, felt like we should have had them. But, I mean, we know we're playing a good Burns team. Great defense as well. The whole season ain't gone our way. We struggled a lot. Burns has only lost 1. I mean, we've lost 7. Anything can happen.
The old saying used to be, if you're going to get us in the regular season because we want to win in the playoffs, you know, and it's hard to beat a good team twice. And we've always been back and forth with Burns. It's been a fun game. It's always been a fun atmosphere.
They better remember that was a dogfight and it could have went either way. We were very fortunate to win that game. Dorman is still Dorman and Burns is still Burns, and it's always going to be a rivalry, and it always seems to be a tight game.
So Burns goes to the playoffs at 9-1. The other area 5A team with a 9-1 record, the Hannah Yellow Jackets, and they had last week off to rest up for postseason play. They're a dangerous ball club in the playoffs because they play really good defense, and if they get the lead on you, they're tough to come back on because of the running game, which features K.D. Patterson, a 1,500-yard season, 23 touchdowns, and he's part of a stable of running backs for Jason Tone's team. Hannah trying to make another step this year. They've been knocked out early in the playoffs the past couple of years after playing for a state title just a few seasons ago.
A lot of that was off-season work. We talked about in the off-season about how do we elevate our program. We're consistently, 10 wins now. We're consistently playing for region championships. We've won 2 upper state championships. How do we take that next step? So it was just a lot of hard work, a lot of little details that we're trying to iron out and hopefully push this team over the hump that we've created for ourselves.
And Hannah and Patterson getting ready to open up against Fort Mill Friday night at home in the high school red zone. They're assured of at least 2 home games in the 5A Upper State playoffs. We will have a recap of all of the action in the high school red zone on Friday night, 11 o'clock Channel 7, 11:35 on the CW62. Hope you join us for that. And of course, whatever we do on TV ends up showing up back here on WSPA.com. Tell you another 5A game to keep an eye on. I think Hillcrest and Nation Ford with an angry Rams team that lost 2 of its last 3 against Hannah and then against Man, both on their home field. They've got to travel over to the Rock Hill area, take on Nation Ford, which is in Fort Mill, and that should be quite a ball game. They've got a good chance to win that one. Keep an eye on JL Man. They're explosive. They could be a kind of team that maybe springs an upset in round 2 or 3. And of course, interestingly, in 4A, Westside looks like a team to keep an eye on. In 3A, you've got the only 2 area unbeatens going into postseason play. Daniels won 46 out of 47, had their state title run end last year on a heartbreaking loss at Powdersville. They will obviously be a factor. And an unbeaten Belton Honeypath team, which has quite a running back trio out of their backfield led by junior Marquez Henderson. And those teams, Daniel and BHP, may be the ones deciding who gets the ticket punched to Orangeburg and the state championship weekend in 3A. And of course, you have defending champs Abbeville and Christchurch trying to make runs once more in 1A. And those 2 teams right now are those with the targets on their backs, because Abbeville comes out of the regular season #1 in the SC Prep Football Media Poll, and Christchurch is #2 behind Louisville in 1A, while Abbeville's #1 in 2A. But a lot of action coming your way once again Friday night, and we'll see you on Channel 7 and the CW62 beginning at 11 o'clock. Let's close out this edition of the Review Preview with our plays of the week from week number 11. And this is really a moment in week number 11 in which Doc Davis has presented a plaque as the field at Viking Stadium named in his honor. They also named the nearby track and field complex on their campus after the late Glover Smiley, who, like Davis, did so much for Spartanburg High School, not only the athletes they coached, but the students they were around. And Doc Davis, the winningest coach all time with nearly 180 at Spartanburg High and 5 state titles between 1991 and 2001. Play number 4 from the JL Man win at Hillcrest, a huge victory it was. Keyshawn Henderson, look at that grab for a touchdown in that shootout. That man was able to rally and claim victory. Anderson's having a great year, quarterback. Keyshawn Henderson, one of the weapons to go with Michael McClellan, gets play number 4. Play number 3, also for Man, and you got to play great defense at this time of the year to win big games, and Wyatt Ward did just that. What an interception. Not only a huge turnover forced right there, but the way he did it, he flew in like Superman. Ward got the ball back for his team with about a minute to go in Hillcrest territory. It set up an Anderson winning touchdown pass, and Wyatt Ward gets play number 3. Play number 2 and play number 1 are 2 of the best catches we've seen all year. Blacksburg lost at Landrum, but just before the half, Cameron Cobb pulls it in with one hand, has 2 defenders around him, still able to bobble it and grab it. Got knocked out of bounds, but a big target making a big play for Blacksburg as Cobb on the run, the one-hander for play number 2. Play number 1, it's a one-hander with some verticality by Shane Davidson on the pass from Riley Staten in the Gaffney loss against Burns. Davidson making as nice a grab as you will see. The Davidson name has been a big one in Gaffney football in recent years at the wide receiver position. In this case, Shane Davidson with a pretty play, earning play number 1 on the final Friday of the regular season. That's the show. We'll see you on the High School Red Zone on Channel 7 and the CW62 Friday night. And of course, all kinds of action right here at WSPA.com. For now, Pete Yanity saying so long, and we'll see you Friday.